Alright, so I'm very pleased to be here tonight because it's carnival season and this is a Mardi Gras Indian den, which is fucking awesome. There should be fucking parades tonight, but instead New Orleans is like, fuck it, we're gonna do Yardi Gras. And Yardi Gras for me, I was looking forward to it because I wasn't going to be reminded by my daughter about the time I dropped her off my shoulders at a Mardi Gras parade. But while we're building our Yardi Gras floats on using wagons, of course she turned and was like, "Remember when you dropped me?" And the reason that the wagons brought up was because the reason I dropped her was because the only way I could describe them is two drunk bitches. And drunk bitch number one was pulling a wagon down the sidewalk during a parade. And drunk bitch number two was holding a drink in each hand and was in the wagon with her leg up. And as they pulled up, I was standing on the corner, and we were standing a little back from the parade because it had been a long night. I saw it coming, and when the back end of the wagon hit the end, it kind of went up. And I did this to try and catch them to be helpful. And unfortunately, when I did this, I took my hands off her legs, and she fell off the back of my shoulder. And fortunately, I picked her up, brought her back to where we were hanging out. Fortunately, there was a pediatrician who worked there, checked her out, said she's all right. Once we stopped the bleeding, she's like, she's fine. But I still have to hear from it every year. And this was 8-9 years ago. And I had to tell her when, the next year after I dropped her, she's like, "Remember when you dropped me last year?" And I was like, "Baby, you gotta understand, that's not the first time I dropped you." And those of you, any parents out here, it's okay to drop your kids because they kind of bounce when they're younger. But the first time that I dropped my child, she was born shortly after Katrina, and I was living in a Katrina trailer, and I was a little bit rounder at the time, and I had her wrapped up like a little papoose, laying on my belly, holding her, loving her, and I fell asleep, and so my arms went to the side, and then she rolled off onto the ground. And again, they bounce. But originally, when it happened, she didn't immediately cry. When I picked her up, she's only a couple months old, and she looked at me like, "Are you that fucking stupid?" And then she cried, because she knew that I was her father, and she's gonna fucking inherit that shit. But Mardi Gras time is the next great season that comes along with it is also crawfish season. And I love crawfish, but early in crawfish season, right about now, it's $5.50 a pound. Maybe a month later, it'll be about $2.50 a pound, going from impossible to improbable. But it doesn't start getting good until around Easter. And I always had a confusion about why my family would always eat crawfish on Easter Sunday. Because, I grew up Catholic. I'm in recovery now. And I never understood why we celebrated the death of the King of the Jews by eating food that Jesus would never have been allowed to eat because he was Jewish, he was kosher. And I had a discussion about this with a friend of mine who's a shrimper. We were talking about it, and he didn't understand. He said, "Well, what do you mean you can't eat shrimp?" And I was like, "Dude, it's in Exodus. And I ended up pointing out to him, and he looked at it, and he said, finally, when he read the Bible, he's like, I believe everything in the Bible. I said, well, but you sell shrimp, and you buy shrimp, and you eat shrimp. He said, oh, that's the Jewish part of the Bible. That don't count. And in New Orleans, there's a reasonably large Jewish population, but as a friend of mine pointed out to me, around here, you got what's called New Orleans kosher. They got their milk ledge, they got their meat ledge, and then they go out and eat charbroiled oysters at Clancy's. But one of the biggest temples in New Orleans has a fucking crawfish boil every year. So apparently New Orleans kosher allows for those types of things. All right, that's my time.